All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have a very special guest, man. We got the one and only, the legendary, from Digital Underground, Two Shorts, Dangerous Crew, the list goes on. This guy is a phenomenal MC, producer. This guy is a jack of all trades within the hip-hop community. We got the one and only Pee-wee right here, live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
Man, I'm all right, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, you are most certainly welcome. I gotta say, first and foremost, man, thank you. I've been a fan of yours for many, many years, man, so just being able to converse with you and interview an individual I grew up listening to is truthfully an honor, man, so thank you so much.
Yeah, like I said, thank you, and you are very welcome, man.
But I know you're a busy guy, Pee-wee, so I'm going to dive right into this broadcast, man, but I want to take you back to the very beginning, man, and I have to ask, what actually sparked your music career initially? Like, what actually made you decide to get into music, man? Because when you go back and listen to all your phenomenal hits, you know, you're so natural at what you do.
Yeah, man, it started, really, man, I come from a big musical family. My parents play and sing, my uncles and aunties, cousins, friends, everybody does something, man. So it's something when I was a kid, I just knew this was what I would be doing.
And also,
so I would, as a kid, I would get my dad's albums and set the album covers around the room and sit there and play drums and play music to the record covers like they were my audience. So it was just always there.
And I gotta say as well, man, you know what I mean? Did your parents ever like come in and be like, "Yo, what are you doing with my records?" Or did they actually think it was pretty cool about how you made your own little makeshift audience?
No, they didn't mind. They used to actually laugh, man, and let me do it, and it was never a problem. And I think about it now, you know, as I got older, like in my young teens, to set up my drums and all of that stuff in the house and play, they never complained. So I commend them for that, because I don't know if I could have dealt with a noisy kid like that.
And also as well, man, before Digital Underground, you were actually a member of the hip-hop duo Gold Money. I was always wondering, man, how did yourself and Big Money Otis initially get connected? And of course, what's the story behind that iconic duo?
That, man, me and Otis grew up together. He's like a brother to me, man, a year older. And we're from the same neighborhood, always went to the same schools, always hung out. We did all the school jazz bands and everything together. So when hip-hop first started to come out, he was one of the people that I would, you know, trade tapes with and find rare stuff. And we decided, you know, that's just what we wanted to do. So all through school, we would save our lunch money, save our bus money, walk home instead of catching the bus, save up and buy equipment and buy records. And there was a few more, you know, guys that were involved with us, but it was us too that just kept doing it and kept going. But yeah, we were always together.
And also as well, man, you guys were actually signed to Tommy Boy Records. I was wondering, like, how did that record deal actually come to be for yourself and Otis?
That was Smooth. Actually, Otis met Smooth. He was a manager for Shock G early on, him and Atron, and he worked at a record store. Otis met him at the store and gave him a demo. So he introduced us to Shock G and Atron, and they were trying to, you know, help us get along. So we kind of joined forces with Digital Underground, but then separately did our own deal with Tommy Boy.
And I gotta say as well, but back in those days, you could meet anybody at record stores, man. I don't think anybody nowadays is really gonna know that feeling of being able to go into a record store and not knowing who you're gonna bump into.
Oh, right, man. And it was good. It was all things in line. And, you know, I tell a lot of people now, back then, you would try to make your contacts and get these directories with record company numbers. And, you know, different people say they're in the industry. So between me and Otis, we made demos, we sent them to people, we met all kinds of people, and none of that stuff worked. But being around, like I said, him meeting Sleuth in the record store, and at the time, hip hop was kind of, it hadn't really taken off yet. So just between Sleuth, seeing Otis do that, he knew, man, you guys, you must be into music, because nobody really comes to this particular section in the show. So having our stuff ready and being ready to move when something happened is what made it all just flow from there.
And also, as well, as you brought up a few moments ago about how everything transitioned actually, into that one record store meeting led to the record deal and then joining Digital Underground and whatnot, I have to ask, man, what was it like just being a part of that influential, legendary group, man? Because Digital Underground has such a unique sound. They were so different from everybody else within the hip-hop community back then.
Man, that was really fun. And even Shock G and Smoothie Smooth, especially, they were like, a few years older than me, but they were funk fans. George Clinton fans, Boosie fans, they liked all the same stuff I liked. So, them being musicians too, we just clicked and I, hung out with them, and everything was really all about fun and making some funky, good music that we liked. And, as things start to take off, okay, of course, surprise, man, okay, surprise you in the light. But even without that stuff, man, just being in that clique like that with like-minded minds, it was fun. And it came out in the music, it came out in the videos, and it was just the total vibe. And like I said, man, since I mentioned Shock and Smooth, I want to say rest in peace to both of them. We just lost Shock not too long ago, and then a couple months after that, we lost Smoothie Smooth to COVID. So, from the time I knew them as a teenager up until just recently, it was always just the same vibe, same dudes I laugh and talk with and tell crazy jokes and all of that. That's what that experience was, and I'm glad I got to travel with them and work with them. And, really have, like, real brotherly relationships with those dudes, because that's really what it was about, and it really showed up in their music.
And also, as well, October 15th of 1991, Digital Underground released the iconic Sons of the P record. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about this iconic record, and of course, just what was it like actually working alongside Shock G and the rest of DU on this phenomenal project?
That one was super fun. It kind of like a dream come true, man. Like I say, we were Parliament fans since we were kids, So the Sons of the P, that's actually how we get the name. That was actually George Clinton, handing us the torch to these new, young, funk kids. And we had some, a few ideas with DJ Fuse and Money D and Jay Beats and all the rest of the crew. But there's this certain batch of songs that me, Shock, and Smooth went out to Detroit and actually worked with George Clinton on. And he was showing us, studio tricks and just vibing out with us and actually got down with us. And at a separate time, he had Parliament here in Richmond down at Starlight, where we normally record. And the same thing happened there, man. A big party. And for me, meeting my idols and getting to suck up some of how they actually did things. And, since I was a kid, like I say, man, playing in front of those album covers and all of that, when I was a kid, I wanted to be in Parliament. So, man, I grew up, man, I'm hanging with George, man, Bucci come to the studio, Gary Scheider, Mike Hampton became a good friend of mine. And it's just, like I say, man, it's just like a real dream come true. That's how that album happened. A big fun party with some of my idols, man.
And the one song that I really enjoy off that record is actually the D-Flow Shuttle, man. Always one of my favorite joints. I was wondering, man, what was it like just putting together that iconic song? Because, just the beat, the rhythm, everything about it is a masterpiece in my personal opinion.
Yeah, that one was fun too. That one was actually Shock had flipped. There's a song I had on that Gold Money album. The music was similar. Shock redid it his own way and just had this concept of, man, we're going to live off of this music, and this is what's going to take us out of these streets, out of trouble, which is the same. We all kind of had that same, starting point. Tupac did it with the Underground Railroad, and that same vibe. This music is what's going to carry us and what's going to take it. So take this train, take this ride, take this journey, and we try to take everybody on that journey with us.
And also, before we move off the topic of Digital Underground, one thing I do have to ask, man, like, as you mentioned earlier on in the interview that this year, unfortunately, we lost the late, great Shock G. I was wondering, man, if you can tell our listeners, what is one of your most fondest memories you shared with Shock G, also known as Humpty Hump?
Ooh, man, I got so many stories. So let me... I'll just start, man, and keep it short. Shock was really like... He used to get mad when I called him Crazy Greg, but he was really like this older brother that kind of knew I've got this dark sense of humor. I don't talk much with everybody, but this silly, dark sense of humor. So one night, man, we were on tour. This is way back in the 90s, early 90s. And you know how when it gets late, everybody gets sleepy, you get silly. Man, we started drawing these little spiders on a, just on a piece of paper. Okay, and hey, man, this one looks like an asshole. So we started laughing back and forth and talking about people we were passing by, the bus driver. Look at this big fat asshole. Look at this skinny asshole. But on and on and on and on until it became a comic book. He took that stuff, redrew it, and made the asshole comics. So yeah, I'll say that's probably my fondest right now, because a lot of those stories are really crazy. But yeah, man, big brother, big buddy.
And also as well,
Hey,
you were actually the co-producer for Tupac's debut album, Tupacalypse Now. I was actually wondering, man, if you can tell our listeners a bit more about this opportunity, and of course, how did it initially arise for you actually co-producing Tupac's debut record?
right? Well, he came around. H&R introduced all of us, but he introduced me and him, together separately. And Tupac would just come to the house, man, and we would kick around ideas and write together and just mess around. He was always just this really dope dude. So time came, and there was a tour. They was getting ready to go on to Japan, and there wasn't enough spots for me to go. So Shock left me a bunch of his equipment. I had some of my own. A few other guys, just dropped all their stuff here at my house. So while they were on tour, I stayed home and produced a lot of that Old Money, the Tupacalypse Now, the Funky Aztec stuff, and a few more things. And I had it ready, when they got back. So when Pac got back, he had a few rhymes. And, hey, man, let's put this one to that. Hey, let's put this one to that. Hey, man, let's flip this one like this. And some of them made the cut, and some of them didn't. And, became other songs later. So it was just like, with Otis, just like with Shock, man, hanging out, doing what we do, and, man, it came into fruition.
And I know as well that you shared this story on numerous occasions before, but for the listeners that haven't already heard, what is the story behind the song I Don't Give a Fuck? Because I've heard that it's actually based on true events.
Yeah. That one was a night we were going to a party in San Francisco. It was a group called the APG Crew, a local group that was kind of making noise at the time. And the short version, man, is we were all together, in separate cars. Stopped at a store in San Francisco, and Tupac and Smooth went into the store. So, okay, yeah, regular night, we just hanging out, we see Smoothie Smooth come out the store, go to his car, and he grabbed the golf club and went back in the store. So we're like, okay, well, what is this about? Before we could get out, they both come running out of the store, jumped in the car, and sped up this hill in San Francisco, close to downtown. So a cab driver gets behind them. He's chasing them. We get behind the cab driver, and we chase the cab driver. So if anybody knows, like, the streets of San Francisco, man, it's a lot of hills. So they get to this top of this one hill, and a smooth car just, gets airborne, jump in the air, and we hear this crash. Boom. So we catch up. Cab driver's out the car. Smooth and Tupac are out of their car, arguing with him, and, it's wreckage and all that junk everywhere. So a few minutes later, these, like, undercover cops. We didn't know they were cops, but your dudes in suits came, drew down on us, telling everybody, get on the ground. And, of course, I'm not getting on the ground, and nobody's getting on the ground until we actually found out who they were. And here comes this paddy wagon. So they put everybody in the paddy wagon and started letting us out one by one. And Shock G and back in the store actually came up to identify who the people in the store were. So we saw Shock G, it's like, no. So they let him go. We saw Otis, Money B, each one. No, and no, until it got down to me, Tupac, and anxiety. He was our bodyguard. And like I say, I've told the story before, it really tripped me out. The 3 bald-headed black dudes we left in the paddy wagon. So police pulled Pac out again, and the guy said he wasn't sure if that was him or not. So they put Pac back in. They took me out. Said the same thing. Took the bodyguard back out. Said the same thing. So we all back in there. They run through it again. He sees Tupac. He said, I'm not sure. And the police were like, well, if you're not sure, we're going to have to let him go. So they let Pac go. And they brought the bodyguard back out. He said he wasn't sure. So he said, well, we're not sure. We can't say this to God. We're going to have to let him go. But they didn't let him go because, he was armed and he had already let him know. So they talked, they police talk and everything. So they pulled me out. And the guy says again, I'm not sure. He's like, well, if that's not him, if you're not sure, we're going to have to let him go. So he said, okay, well, that's him. So they put me back in the paddy wagon. Me and the bodyguard ended up going to jail. We get down there, man, and, they do whatever they doing there. The next morning, Big Money Otis and Shock G came to get me out. So I get in the car with them, and we come straight to the studio. And when I get in the studio, Pac's in there, he saw me, and he started laughing. So I'm like, man, what you laughing at? And he was like, well, dude, man, that wasn't you in the store, so they'll never be able to prove that that was you. So at the same time, it's better that you went than I went. So now we both laughing, okay, ha, ha, he. But he was like, man, shoot, man, we need to make something out of this. So I went in that same, archive of tracks I made, I told you about earlier. Like, okay, well, shoot, man, let's put it to this. So he wrote his verses, and I wrote mine, and that's the song that pretty much got him his deal. It was a real story.
And I remember as well that actually reading that, the guy that owns Interscope Records, his daughter was actually the one that she actually said that was her favorite song was I Don't Give a Fuck.
Right. And I can kind of see why, because it was kind of like the same thing that made me start liking the early Chicago drill. You can really hear when something's authentic as opposed to, hey, man, let's write this song. when stuff is really real and it really happens, that stuff kind of writes itself in a way that imagination can't do. It just is what it is. So yeah, that thing it's a vivid story from a real story.
And the one thing I have to ask before we move off the Tupac topic, and this is the one thing I personally always wanted to know as a fan, because as you already know, in '94 he got shot, I believe 5 times and lived. And after that, he started realizing that he doesn't got much time left, and he really started crunching within the studio. I have to ask, man, during in '91 when you were doing the debut album, did he have that same work ethic at the very beginning of his career, where he was just so hungry and just work, or was he kind of a little bit more laid back in the early days than, of course, after '94?
Actually, he was always like that, always writing. And I can really say, man, he gets that, and he is known as the king of that within our crew and a certain, a few other people around us. Like Bill Funky Homo Sapien is one of them. Money B, myself, Shock G. As far as sitting down to write something, man, do it quick. The thing with Pac, and me and Shock used to always laugh at that, by us being musicians too, our minds would be in other places, put this piece together, put that. But with Pac, he would constantly write. And he was a dope freestyler too, so just off the head, he always had something. He stayed on current events. He was always reading something, always paying attention to what's going around. So, yeah, man, he always had that steady and constant ability to just, okay, what's the topic? Okay, here you go, right now. So, yeah, man, that didn't come later. That was something he always had. And that's one of the things that made him, really fit with us, because with all as big as the group was, anytime a concept come up, if you don't have something for it right now, you're not going to be on it. So he stood up to it, man, and surpassed it, and probably got, I don't know how many songs, but maybe more songs than anybody from that time, from just being constant like that.
And also, as you touched base on previously a little bit as well, is about the Gold Money album that actually dropped, that initially dropped in '92, titled "A Day in the Life of a Player." I was wondering if you can actually shed some light on this amazing album release, and of course, why wasn't there ever a second Gold Money album?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. We were looking, Otis was looking for, a good outlet to keep going, but he kind of slowed down with it. Me, myself, I always wanted to be a producer and not really a star front man, because I do so many different things. I didn't really want to get pigeonholed as an artist. So what we did was we tried to use that album kind of like how with Digital Underground it was more fun and game, but it was still social commentary. And then Pox was more street and militant at the same time. We wanted to take that album and set it in this pimp scene that still kind of raised those same messages. And like I said, we produced that, got that rolling, and I started producing for a lot of other people, and we just didn't want to keep that same thing going. So I was able to use my production as outlets and topics with different groups, and we just let that go because I really didn't want to be a star. And I think after it got rolling, Otis probably was like, you know what, man, I was going to chill out. I'll write, but yeah, he just wasn't in it no more. So, and that's funny too, because I wasn't even really supposed to rap on that album. We actually had, a bunch of deadlines and stuff to meet. So I ended up, okay, write this real quick. This the next song. This the next song. Most of that stuff was supposed to be Big Money Otis, and in the end, it was mostly me. And like I said, I didn't want to just be pigeonholed like that, because that is a dangerous situation in the industry, man. Once somebody likes you for something, you can be very good at something else, and they don't want to hear it. You know, so I do understand. It's just like, you know, you go to McDonald's for a Big Mac. You're not going there for a chicken wing. So just on the branding, yeah, I had to move around.
And also, as well, a year after that, in '93, you actually did vocals on George Clinton's Hey Man, Smell My Finger record. I was wondering, what was it like working with the funk legend in the studio and putting that phenomenal project together?
Man, that was more of that same fun time when we cut that around within that same few sessions of Sons of the P. And George had got the track from some kid, I forget his name, and I really liked the track. And George was trying to, you know, figure out what he wanted to do with it. So he sat up, and he had a friend, man, this old crazy white dude used to always spit these rock hymn verses. So him and George sat down and came up with that, you know, but you know, that load of lyrics in your heart against the bass. So they writing all of this stuff, and we sitting there going back and forth, and he's like, okay, man, well, look, I'm going to do this. Rhythm and rhymes. And he already had the hook, he already had the layout. He put it to that track and wanted me to do a certain verse he had written. He wanted Shock to do another verse he had written. So we want to knock that out. And, okay, forgot about the song. It was later on, I was in Minneapolis with my cousin, Levi Caesar. He was president at Paisley Park at the time. So I was out there doing some work with them. And he pops up with this tape, this reel-to-reel. He said, man, I want you to mix this. So I put it on. I'm like, hey, man, where you get this? This is me. He started laughing. He was like, I know. We got it from George. So, you know, I did what I would do on that one, gave it back, and then that one came out. So it was more that, like I say, man, just family love and things coming to be just from doing them. But that was a total surprise with me. And like now, when I run into George, anytime I do, that's the first thing I say to him. I start spitting that rhythm and rhymes.
And I gotta say as well, George, he's like in his 80s, and he's actually still looking good, man, and still doing concerts and performing. I'm telling you, like, he doesn't look a day over 60, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think I might look older than George. George cleaned up. He's looking good, man. He got his some of his kids and his grandkids out on the road with him now, so I know that's keeping them real young. The last time I saw him, he really looked, I would say, like a granddaddy, man. He let go a lot of that wild image, and he's just this dope OG dude now.
And also as well, man, aside from the DU days, you were also a member of Too Short's Dangerous Crew. I was wondering, how did you originally get connected with Too Short? And of course, what was it like just being a part of that iconic group as well?
That was Shorty B that came to did some work with us. He did a song that was actually a tribute to Parliament called Tales of the Funky, and Shy G liked it. So he used it, you know, for our album. And me and Shorty B, you know, we all hung out, but me and Shorty B hung out, and we kind of just really clicked. Because Shorty B is another one of them music kids, like the same kind of music I like. We play a few different instruments, and man, we would hang out, and Digital Underground had started to really grow. And, you know, the crew was getting bigger. And at this one particular time, in fact, when my daughter was born, I was really, you know, hungry to get out on the road, and Shock wanted to take a break. So I'm like, okay, man, well, let me know when you're ready to go. Shorty B had this idea because he was already working with Too Short. Well, let's put together a band and go out on the road with Short. So we got Shine G and Eddie Hall and a few other guys, and we made a band for Short. You know, the original idea was we just gonna go, you know, go tour and be his band. Well, I get to Short's camp, and I told him, that was around the end of the gold money thing too. I want to do this, but we got to find a spot for big money owners. So he's like, "Well, bring him along, and we'll just, we'll make something out of that." And had a spot in Short's place. He had an empty room. He's like, "Man, well, where did you record at?" I'm like, "I record at home." He's like, "Well, I got a few pieces to add to yours. If you want to use your spot, you can use your spot." So I used that place, and I would produce out of a building he had. And he had other artists like, Goldie and Father Dom and Rapping Ron and those dudes, and the Loonies would come around, Spice One, and I would make these tracks in the back room. And, hey, man, I like that. So this one would go to somebody. And Shorty B would come through. "Hey, man, you put this bass line on here." All the time. And Banks, he got a room, in the same building, just, a different room. So he was kicking out stuff at the same time. And with all of us there, we would get on each other's stuff and not knowing what song would go to who because it would just be music. So what started to just be this road band turned into a production team because we had all of the pieces between us three, and there was another guy, DJ Pizzo, one of my homeboys. He was a DJ. So he had a lot of records and stuff. So just with us all being in the same spot and Too Short being like this mascot for Oakland, all the different producers, all the different people that I was looking to invest, all of the rappers, they would come to where we were. And that's how we was able to just kick stuff out to them. So just like, the other stories, the stuff happened from just being there. And it lasted for a while. That lasted for a while, too.
And I gotta say as well, I remember that record that you guys dropped. I believe it was the second record, Don't Try This at Home, man. My favorite joint that you did was actually Gone with the Wind, man. I in my personal opinion, I feel like you destroyed that song.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I should have kept going with that one, but like I say, man, that pigeonhole, I didn't want that. But yeah, I really liked Gone with the Wind, and I was actually out in Atlanta when I wrote that one, and that's just the space office. Ready to move and do something else. So yeah, that's what came out of that one. But I'm glad you liked it.
And I believe that one as well. I believe you produced that song along with Shorty B, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I read the booklet.
Yeah, I did that one, man. That one was pretty much done, but Banks mixed it for me. And as he was mixing it, Shorty B laid another bass line on top of what I already had. So that one is pretty much turned out to be me and him in the end.
And also, diving into the 2000s, in the year 2002, you actually did some more phenomenal production work, but this time for Daz Dillinger, one half of the Dog Pound, for his compilation record To Live and Die in California, on the song Freak Play. I was wondering, how did yourself and Daz Dillinger get connected, and of course, what was it like working in the studio with that fellow West Coast legend?
Man, I actually didn't work with him. What happened, man, is on that one and a few other tracks, I have worked on tracks, worked on different things, man, and guys would sample them. And I would end up with these credits, and I'd be like, hey, and some of them, it's not till I go back and listen to them, I'll be like, whoa, he flipped this part. Or, whoa, they flipped that part. It was one other time, man, there's a credit I got on a Ludacris song. And I was hanging out with one of my homegirls one day. She actually found it. And she say, man, you know Ludacris? I was like, I met him, but, I don't know him. She said, your name is on here. So I looked. He had actually sampled some stuff that I'd done with Short. And it ended up coming in my royalties later. So some of my credits are me sitting there. Some of my credits are people flipping things I'd already done.
But I have to say as well, are you still, if you don't want me asking, are you still getting royalty payments for that, or are these sampled illegally?
Yeah. Those those don't go away. Yeah, I still get those.
Hey, that's the best way to do it. Eh? At the end of the day, you keep them samples coming through, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, if you listen to Short on a lot of those songs, on a lot of his songs, and even the Dangerous Crew stuff, that's a trip too. But he would say sample the funk, and that was one of our goals, is to have a lot of our stuff sampled, because some of the things, well, pretty much you can listen to a lot of my production. A lot of times people think, I was sampling records, but what I would do is go play that stuff and then sample myself playing them to make them sound like they had been samples. So, yeah, man, that was the way for me. Things are changing now, and I got, other projects I'm trying to do, but it's still going to be based on sit down and play, create, and that is for anybody listening. That is how you will be able to, no matter how big or how small or for how long, you will be able to get royalties because the stuff is yours.
But I have to ask, man, what is next for yourself, PB? Because I know we only touch base on like a sliver of your legendary career here this evening, man. But are you working on anything new? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the FM dial this evening.
Right. Well, I guess the first priority things, man, is this. It doesn't have a name yet. It's a funk project I want to do. And so far, I got most of the songs already recorded. And what I'm going to need to do is put a band and a front man to it, because all of this stuff is just me. So for it to be able to go out and be performed and actually be something, I've got to make a situation, make a look, make a band. So I'm trying to develop that. And also, with money being fused, we're trying to figure out how we're going to carry this digital underground thing out, further, and not let that go away. And so far, there's Money Being Young Hub. They got a show that they do together, and we're still trying to figure out how we're going to bring this thing together to still get out and go do it like how we did, So those are my main two priorities as far as, music goes.
I got to say as well,
situation.
I gotta say, that funk project definitely sounds phenomenal, man. I'm definitely excited to hear the finished product when it does drop to the general public.
Yeah, I definitely keep you in the loop and let you know. And it's really, I can say, man, it's a lot of the songs really bring back that, not the James Brown, but the kind of Parliament, kind of Bootsy, those years, but the sound of it is new. They don't sound like old records, but it's that vibe. It sounds new. So I'm real excited about that. And I'm excited to put, like I say, the people that fit into the different positions to make that happen.
But also as well, Pee-wee, this is the time in the interview, man, that I give a chance for the individual that does slide through the radio station airwaves, just like a chance to give, like, shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to, but most of all, man, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything you got going on if they're not already doing so.
Well, the easiest one to follow that I'm on the most is just Ramon Gooden on Facebook. First name Ramon, last name Gooden. So start from there, you'll find the rest, and the rest will develop from there. I'm usually on there or not on social media. So that's that one.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Pee-wee, thank you, man, so much for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening. And I just gotta give you your flowers quickly while we got you here live, and just say thank you for making so much amazing music that I had the opportunity to enjoy growing up from my teenage years all the way into my adulthood, man. Your music that you put together definitely helped me get through a lot of difficult time, man. So thank you for just years of amazing music, and I'm definitely looking forward to much more in the future as well.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, shoot, man, stay in touch. I will, like I said, I'll keep you in the loop and let you know what I'm doing, because I'm constantly working on it, man, and that's something that I will I always do, until I'm gone. So as long as I'm here, you will know something.
Hey, definitely sounds like a plan. I know we're connected there on Facebook, so whenever that project is
Oh
finished,
yeah.
I'll definitely break some of these records here on the Canadian FM dial, man.
Yeah, and that's I was actually looking on your page. It was a couple days ago, man. We got a lot of friends that coming, but I see you had Renaissance on there. That's my family too. They are doing that Genius Funk thing. I did an intro and a couple things, with them. So, like I say, my web is going to go out pretty wide, but that's another one to look out for. Check them dudes out.
And I gotta say, Genius Funk is definitely a phenomenal group, man. Definitely keeping that that original great funk sound alive, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, they capture the time frame and they do it well.
But I gotta say, Pee Wee, thank you so much, man, again, for just taking the time out of your evening. It definitely was an honor and most definitely a privilege. And hopefully down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon. But for now, definitely have yourself a wonderful night. We definitely shall talk soon.
You too, man. Stay in touch.
Most definitely. We definitely shall definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much, Pee Wee.
All right, you're welcome, and I'm going to say peace out to Outlaw Radio.